So the best-selling car in the world last year, Tesla Model Y, easily the best-selling car. But there are some alternatives, and a lot of people keep asking me, Sam, what electric car should I buy? Some people say they're going to buy a new Tesla Model Y. I've had a few people, probably about 10 people tell me that in the last couple of weeks. Others say they want something else. They want an alternative. Please, what are the alternatives? Can you list them for us? Can you list your recommendations? So what I'm going to do is here are all the alternatives to the Tesla Model Y all around the world, not just in Australia or just the United States, but everywhere. Most of these cars, not all of them, but most of them should be available to you. And here are what I recommend buying. Plus, I'll give you a few extra ones from China you might not know about. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm going to be at the Melbourne International EV Auto Show on the 27th, 28th, and 29th of June. And I'd love to see you there. 20% discount on tickets. I'll put a link in the description below. I'll be speaking there, and I'd certainly love to meet you as well. So the Tesla Model Y, right? It's just going on sale around the world, a lot of popularity. It's a really good car. If you buy one, I wouldn't criticize you. I totally understand. Some people don't want to buy Teslas. I understand that too as well. So some of the choices you have are this. The Kia EV5, that's one choice. The Kia EV5 is built on a 400-volt platform. It is really a more budget version of a Kia electric car. It's predominantly manufactured in China, uses a lithium iron phosphate battery, BYD's blade battery. It's relatively heavy and it's not aerodynamic because it's a bit brick-shaped. If you like a traditional looking SUV, this could be the car for you. It's definitely a traditional looking car. It looks quite different to a Tesla Model Y. So it looks more like a traditional SUV, but it is smaller than a Tesla Model Y, has less boot space, is approximately 200 to 300 kilos heavier, has less range, and has slower charging speed and much, much less efficiency. So I wouldn't recommend the Kia EV5. Absolutely not. There's some other choices here, though, that I would recommend. When it comes to budget choices, the best value budget choice in this entire list is the Gil EX5. And I can see why people have been buying them. They are incredibly good value. I actually test drove one of these in China around a racetrack. The only reason I'd say not to get one of these, or one definite reason, is the suspension is very much comfort focused and it makes me feel a little bit car sick. It's just too squishy for me, for my liking. Some people like that, but it's not my thing. The Gil EX5 was launched in China in 2024. It's a mid-size electric SUV, a bit smaller than a Tesla Model Y. It's 4.6 meters long, and it starts at a price of $20,000 in China. In Australia, it starts at a price of 40,000 Australian dollars, which is around 27,000 US dollars. It's extremely good value for money. It utilizes a 60 kilowatt hour LFP battery, and it's built on a 400-volt platform. It has 215 horsepower from a front motor and a 15.4-inch touchscreen. It will do 0 to 100 in 6.9 seconds, although I don't know if you can really achieve that in the real world. I tried, I couldn't get there. But guys, anyway, this is an exceptionally good value car. And it's much, much cheaper than a Tesla Model Y. It's about 30% cheaper than a Tesla Model Y. Very good value. Not as good as a Tesla, but much more affordable. Next, the Xpeng G6. The G6 has just been updated. And it's cheaper than a Model Y in China. It's about 10 to 15% cheaper, depending on the version. The new version is built on an 800-volt platform capable of 530 kilowatt fast charging. It has a brand new battery, and the battery is, I believe, potentially a bit of an upgrade, which enables that super fast charging. In fact, you can charge the car from 10 to 80% in 12 minutes, which is just, to be honest, this car has the fastest charging of any car in this entire list, except maybe one, and I'll get to that one in just a second. Now, the dual motor version of this car can do 0 to 100 in 3.9 seconds. That's 0 to 62 miles an hour. All models now use the Turing AI chip. So it should have similar full self-driving, not quite as good, but similar to Tesla. And I have used it. It's not bad. I mean, I personally own an Xpeng G6, but a new one has just been revealed. That should be in most countries around the world by the fourth quarter of this year. The new one, I've got to say, is a fair bit better than the existing model. And I test drove that. If you want to see my review of that test drive, I'll put a link in the description. I would say the Xpeng G6 is probably the closest rival to the Tesla Model Y in terms of price, specifications, features, range. It's a bit cheaper than a Model Y, and it does get a bit more range. If we're comparing base model for base model, I think that the Xpeng G6 might be a better deal. But there's a few other cars in this list we've got to look at first as well. What about the Leapmotor C10? I test drove a Leapmotor C10 recently. This is a mid-size electric SUV. It's cheaper than a Model Y. It's even cheaper than an Xpeng G6. It has a CLTC range of approximately 330 miles or 530 kilometers. So it's about 430 kilometers WLTP. It uses a 70 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery, but it's still a bit confusing. It does have a 400 volt architecture, but it won't anymore. A new version has been launched in China. And that new version means this car now has an 800 volt platform. It now has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which the current car doesn't have. But to be honest, guys, basically the new version is much, much better than the existing version on sale right now. If you're about to buy a Leapmotor C10, I personally would hold off and I'd wait for the new version, which is a huge upgrade. Next, we have the BYD Sea Lion 7. The Sea Lion 7 was introduced in 2024. It's similar pricing, closer to an Xpeng G6, a bit more affordable than a Tesla Model Y. The base model is about 15% cheaper than the base model Tesla Model Y in most countries around the world, and it's very good value. It uses BYD's existing, not its new blade batteries, its existing blade battery technology. So it has an 800 volt platform, is capable of charging at 250 kilowatt, which is, good. It's not groundbreaking, but pretty good. And charging speed is 10 to 80% in 25 minutes. I think it's a legitimate rival for the Model Y. Probably the one biggest drawback is the efficiency, a little bit lower than a Model Y and an Xpeng G6, and the weight. It's a fair bit heavier. It's about 200 to 300 kilograms heavier than an Xpeng G6 and a Tesla Model Y. But it is exceptionally good value for money. You get a very, very high standard of specification for a bit of a lower price than a Model Y. Next, we have the Volkswagen ID4. The ID4 is a mid-size electric SUV. I think we need to confirm though, guys, it's not as big as an Xpeng G6, not as big as the BYD Sea Lion, not as big as a Tesla Model Y. It's a bit smaller. It's about 4.6 meters long. So it's about 10% smaller, but it's got a fair bit of interior space because of the fact it has quite a small bonnet. So it's definitely worth having a look at. It has a 77 kilowatt hour NMC battery, and it's built on the MEB 400 volt architecture. Fast charging, not all that quick. It's 125 kilowatt for the base model. The boot size is good for the size of the car though. It's a 543 litre boot. But pricing is very similar, pretty much line ball with the Model Y, which is, like I said, a bigger car. It's more efficient. It has more standard specification. Yeah, I don't really think the Volkswagen ID4 compares favorably with the Model Y, and I think you can see that from sales. In Europe, though, the ID4 is cheaper than the Model Y. So you can see why the ID4 is selling quite well in Europe. Next, the Toyota BZ4X. In the US, there is a new version of the BZ4X, which has more range, has bigger batteries, and it also has better charging speed. It's called the Toyota BZ. In the rest of the world, we're still getting the old model, the BZ4X, which is really, it's actually slightly more expensive than a Model Y in many countries. In Australia, it is. Some other countries, it's not. To be honest, the BZ4X, it's not a legitimate rival for any of these cars. The BZ4X, the new BZ, it's a much better vehicle, and you could legitimately compare it. But seeing as we have no word from Toyota whether or not that car's going to be sold outside of the US, well, I personally would say I would not waste my time looking at a Toyota BZ4X. It's just not competitive on range, price, platform, anything at all. Interior space. The inside, in my opinion, is very, very plasticky, very, very cheap looking. So I wouldn't recommend it. It's the one car on this list I would say just rule out immediately. Subaru Sulttera. Well, the Subaru Sulttera is the same car as the Toyota BZ4X. So I guess I should say two cars to rule out on this list. Now, guys, don't get me wrong. If you're a Toyota fan, if you're a Subaru fan, and you love those brands, and therefore you're going to stick with the brand no matter what, both of these EVs are going to be better than your internal combustion car. So it's definitely worth changing. But if you can handle it, switching to a new brand, that's what I'd recommend. Next, we have the Zeekr 7X. Now, the Zeekr 7X is not yet available in Australia, but it will be this year. It will be available in Europe this year. This is going to be a global car sold in many markets around the world. It starts in China at a price of $33,000. It's a similar price to the Model Y in China, but outside of China, it's likely to be about, I'm estimating 15% more expensive. So the ZK7X is actually a bit bigger than a Tesla Model Y. And in fact, in all the cars I've mentioned so far, it's 4.8 meters long. Standard model gets a 75 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery with an 800 volt platform. Fast charging, I believe, is 600 kilowatt. So very similar charging speeds to the new Xpeng G6. You can charge the battery in 9 minutes. And yeah, it's an incredibly good car. You're paying for it though. You're paying a bit extra, but you're getting a very nice car, bigger car, very luxurious car. The top spec model has 700 kilometers of CLTC range. So you're looking at about 600 kilometers of WLTP range for the top spec model, which has a 100 kilowatt hour NMC battery from CATL. It's actually a very impressive battery pack. So this is a premium Model Y rival, very nice car. If you want to pay a bit more and get what I think is a very, very nice car, this is very much worth having a look at. The Deepal S07. The Deepal S07 is a mid-size electric SUV made by Chungan. It's priced in China from $20,000 to $27,000 US dollars. Very good value. It's one of the cheaper cars in this list, and it has 520 kilometers of CLTC range with its 66.8 kilowatt hour battery. It's built on a 400 volt platform, supports pretty slow charging, 80 kilowatt charging. It's cheaper than a Model Y. It's sort of closer in terms of price to a Gil EX5, and that's where you want to compare it really. If you're in the market for a Model Y, I don't think this is really a car you'd be looking at. This is more of a car that you'd be looking at if you're in the market for a Gil EX5, a more affordable car. And I'd probably pick the Gil EX5 out of these two. Next, we have the Hyundai Ioniq 5. In most markets around the world, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is a little bit more expensive than a Tesla Model Y and more expensive than a BYD or an Xpeng. So you've really got to consider and ask yourself the question, a bit smaller than a Model Y, a bit smaller than an Xpeng G6, do you want to pay a bit extra to get a smaller car? Some people say yes, and it actually is a very nice car. It's built on an 800 volt platform. The new version has a bigger battery. It's got an 84 kilowatt hour NMC battery and having around 600 kilometers of range. Charging is 350 kilowatt. In the real world, you're going to get less, but still very good platform, very nice car, 513 litre boot. So that's much smaller boot size than a Model Y. It's a little smaller than an Xpeng G6, but yeah, overall, I think the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is a great car, except for the fact that it is the most unreliable car on this list, according to statistics. Reports that we've seen in numerous countries say there's a big problem with one part in this car, and Hyundai have yet to really provide a solution. So based on that, I wouldn't recommend it. The Kia EV6. The Kia EV6 is a mid-sized SUV, and it's built on the same platform as the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Basically now they have the similar pricing, similar battery pack sizes, similar charging speeds, and so that means you're looking at 350 kilowatt charging. There is also the GT version, which is awesome. That's more of a rival for the Tesla Model Y performance. Same thing with Hyundai's Ioniq 5. This is a Hyundai Ioniq 5N, probably out of the price range of most people watching this. So we'll just move on from that in terms of the performance models. But the EV6 is a bit smaller than an Ioniq 5. So it's not the same kind of family car that you'd say that the Sea Lion is, or the Xpeng G6 is, or the Tesla Model Y is. Just doesn't have that same practicality. Smaller boot, smaller interior. Next, for you guys in America and Canada, and I believe Mexico as well, got a couple of, one American car, which I believe might be sold outside of America soon as well, the Chevrolet Blazer EV. The Blazer EV starts at $41,000, and I should mention, and it has a 324-mile range. That's 520 kilometers on the EPA cycle. So WLTP, probably about 560 kilometers of range. It uses an 85 kilowatt hour NMC battery, 400 volt platform, 150 kilowatt charging. Charging speed is probably not great. It's slightly more expensive than a Model Y based on most trims. It's a bit bigger though than a Model Y, but it's got quite a long bonnet. So the interior space is not really bigger than the Model Y space. Now, I think this is a good car, the Blazer EV, and is definitely an option worth considering if you live in the United States or Canada. Next, the Ford Mustang Mach-E. The Mach-E in Australia is it's slightly more expensive than a Tesla Model Y, and it's definitely more expensive than an Xpeng G6 and a BYD Sea Lion, and as a result, it hasn't sold that well. It's sold a lot better in the United States, though, where it is actually cheaper in some specs than a Model Y. It also has a lithium iron phosphate battery in the base model version. It is a similar situation to many of these cars, though, where the interior space is a bit smaller, a bit more cramped, and so it's not as much of a great family option. That said, though, there is one option of this car which has quite a lot of range. It's got a 98.7 kilowatt hour battery, enabling probably about 600 kilometers of real world range. That's a nice car, but yeah, like I said, more expensive. Probably not an option that I would personally be looking at. Next, we have the Nissan ARA. The Nissan ARA is a mid-size electric SUV, similar size to a Gil EX5, similar specifications to a Gil EX5, but you can get a long-range version of the Nissan ARA with a 91 kilowatt-hour NMC battery. Guys, I actually think the Nissan ARA is not a bad car. Is it the best in this list? No. Would I buy a Nissan, though, right now, considering they could go bankrupt? No, I wouldn't. 7 factories are closing. They have 17, they're closing 7, and there may be more as well. Scoda Enyak. The Scoda Enyak is built on the same platform as the Volkswagen ID4. The pricing is fairly competitive. It's slightly more, probably in most countries, around 5% more expensive than a Tesla Model Y. It has a 585-litre boot, so it's a bit bigger than a Volkswagen ID4. Conservative styling. A lot of people like the Scoda Enyak. It's selling quite well in Europe. I like the car. If you can get a good deal, I'd be maybe considering having a look at one. That said, charging speed is not the greatest. The base model is 125 kilowatt. Power is not bad, 282 horsepower on the base model. Yeah, it's not a bad car. See what kind of deals you can get with these vehicles if you're looking at them. But you don't want to pay more, I would say, than a BYD C-Line or an Xpeng G6 if you're going to buy an alternative to the Model Y. Now, next, Chevy Equinox EV. So this is for you guys in North America. Starts at $34,000 US, including incentives, I believe. Really good value. 500 kilometers of range, 311 miles, that is. It uses a 76.6 kilowatt hour NMC battery with the Ultium 400 volt platform. Charging speed is 150 kilowatt. The motor in the base model is 288 horsepower. It's actually maybe slightly better value than a Model Y in the United States. It's got, some drawbacks. It doesn't have the same charging speed of the Model Y. It doesn't have the same interior space. Model Y's got a bigger boot space, but it's really good value. So it's definitely worth having a look at that. Audi Q4 e-tron's next. The Q4 e-tron is also built on the MEB platform. It supports 135 kilowatt charging for the previous model, base model. The new model is a bit faster, 170 kilowatt. Now the question is, are you going to pay significantly more money for an Audi on a 400 volt platform than you would for some of the rivals in this list? I'd say no. Is it more luxurious on the inside than some of the rivals on this list? Well, maybe in terms of the way you look at it, it is, but I actually don't think it is in terms of the actual specifications you get as standard. Next is a car which is actually really nice, the Polestar 4. I'm a big fan of the Polestar 4. It has around 600 kilometers of range, and that is off using its 100 kilowatt hour NMC K-Tor battery. It's the same exact battery pack. I believe it's a chill-in battery that is used in the Zeekr 7X. 800 volt platform, fast charging. This car can charge quite quickly. Not quite as quick as an Xpeng G6, but it still will charge probably similar charging speeds to a Tesla Model Y, maybe slightly quicker. I'm talking about the Tesla Model Y long range rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive with 250 kilowatt charging. So the Polestar 4 is worth considering. And I would say it's just as good as a Model Y, but it is more expensive. And that's something you've got to factor in. It's approximately going to be 10 to 20% more expensive. NIO's Onvo L60. This is a China-only model. So let's have a look at a few China-only models, guys. Let's have a look at a couple of them from China. The NIO Onvo it's meant to be the car that was going to take down Tesla in China. That's what NIO's CEO said. That didn't quite happen. And the reason is probably because it's maybe a little expensive in comparison to some of its rivals in China. It starts at a price of $30,000 US. It uses a lithium iron phosphate battery, a 60 kilowatt hour battery in the base model, a 90 kilowatt hour battery in the more expensive model. It does, though, have a 900 volt platform that supports 300 kilowatt charging. You can charge from 10 to 80% in 15 minutes. Battery swapping, that's also an option as well. And that said, it hasn't sold that well in China. It's been a bit of a flop there. And it's not on sale yet outside of China either. Xiaomi's YU7. The YU7 is based on the SU7. They're the same platform. It's an 800 volt platform. and it supports 200 kilowatt charging. Now, the Xiaomi YU7 is a similar price to a Tesla Model Y, but it's definitely more luxurious. It's actually significantly bigger on the outside, not on the inside. And it's a really fun looking, it looks like a Ferrari. That's what I think. It's a really popular car right now in China because of the design. People think it looks great. And Xiaomi is just, well, they couldn't put a foot wrong until recently. There's been a whole lot of scandals with them recently, but I think they'll get through that. And this car will be quite popular in China. Another car that's really good value, there's a Toyota version of this on sale in China for $14,000. This is the Aon Y Plus. It starts at a price of $16,000 in China. It uses a 400 volt platform, and it uses a lithium iron phosphate battery as well. But at a price of $16,000 with a 62 kilowatt hour battery and about probably 450 kilometers of WLTP range, it's incredibly good value. Aon, I believe they are bringing their cars to numerous countries around the world. They've said that they would, just hasn't happened yet. Sales for Aon last year were really good until they started slowing down towards the last 6 months of the year. They were delivering around 50,000 EVs a month for quite a while, but they've slowed down recently. The Nita X. The Nita X is incredibly good value. Starts at $17,000 in China, has a range of 500 kilometers, and uses a lithium iron phosphate battery. Charging speed's a little slow at 100 kilowatt. And the other problem you got to consider with Nita is that they could go bankrupt. There's been word that maybe Toyota will bail them out. They're under huge financial difficulties right now. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Nita if the company is still around in a year's time. Not sure. Now, one final car that's could be interesting to you is the Mazda EZ60. The Mazda EZ60 right now is only being sold in China, but I believe I've heard it might be sold outside of China as well. It's actually built by Mazda's joint venture partner called Chungan, and it starts at a price of $27,000 in China, which makes it around $5,000 cheaper than a Model Y. It offers 500 kilometers of CLTC range from a 66 kilowatt hour NMC battery. So you're looking at about 400 kilometers of range from that base model. It uses a 400 volt platform, has 120 kilowatt fast charging, and 218 horsepower. Now, I should mention there's also a plug-in hybrid version of this car. So if you want a plug-in hybrid, that will be a possibility. And I should also mention this Mazda is actually a fairly big car. It's 4,850 millimeters long. So it's a similar size to the Zeekr 7X. The only problem I'd say with this vehicle is, like most of Mazda's cars, the interior packaging is a bit odd and it has quite a small boot. For a car this size, it has the smallest boot of any car on this list at only 350 liters of cargo space. But that said, it's a great looking car and it has a long bonnet, which looks kind of sexy if you're into that thing. So guys, this is the full list. Now, as you know, I personally have bought an Xpeng G6, and the reason I did that is because I thought it was the best value at the time. There is a new version of the G6 coming towards the fourth quarter of this year, and I'd say that's probably the closest rival in terms of price, performance, specifications, and everything else to the Tesla Model Y. I actually think it's better value than a Model Y. I don't think there's any argument to be made about that. But there's some other cars in this list that are definitely worth considering. If you're looking for a bigger version of a Model Y with a bit more luxury, the Zeekr 7X would be the car I'd be having a good look at. If you're in the United States, the Equinox EV is extremely good value for money. If you're looking in the budget sector for a more affordable electric car, which will provide most of what the Model Y can do, not everything, but most of it, then the Gil EX5 would be my pick. I hope that helps. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Which of these is your favorite car? Which of these are you considering buying? Have you shortlisted any of them? Let us know in the comments. And it's really important actually to let us know in the comments because manufacturers do pay attention. If you've got any recommendations, put them in the comments. Say, I want this car. This is why. And they will actually, consider your request. Thanks for watching.